Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so good to be with all of you, whether you are here in person or whether you're joining us via the live stream as we bring in Shabbat together. I'm Rabbi Zach Pleasant, joined by my clergy colleagues, Rabbi Michael Friedman and Cantor Julia Cadrain. We have become accustomed to saying here at Temple Israel that whether this is your first time in this space, whether this is your 1,000th time in this space, or whether you're not in this space but joining us virtually, you have always belonged right here. So we're going to take a few minutes to say hi, say Shabbat Shalom to someone who is in this room that you may or may not know, but take a couple of minutes and say Shabbat Shalom to someone sitting near you. Gather together first by welcoming Stella Tobin, who becomes bat mitzvah tomorrow morning, up to our bima to kindle our Sabbath lights. We are on page 120.
וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
Sometimes Shabbat comes and we are not quite ready for it. Whether it's been a long week or a challenging day or a difficult couple of weeks, sometimes Shabbat arrives and we have not arrived to Shabbat. And sometimes that is precisely what Kabbalat Shabbat can be for each of us. A time to get ready and get ready a little bit more as we bring in Shabbat by singing, by making a joyful noise and raising our voices together. We'll begin on page 142 with the words of Shalom Aleichem, and we'll continue on the previous page 140 with Mizmor Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Borachem L'Shalom. Vorachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, melech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shuvchem l'shalom, Shuvchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem. Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Page 140. Mizmor Shir LeYom HaShabbat, a psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor Shir LeYom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני. ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר, להגיד בבוקר, בבוקר חסדך
Rabbi Harold Kushner of blessed memory wrote that prayer is not about asking God for stuff. God is not Santa Claus. Prayer is about being in the presence of God. With the words of Lecha Dodi, pages 138 and 139, we welcome in the Shabbat Beloved, which is one of the ways that we might think of God entering into this space, being in our presence this evening.
Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad hishmi'anu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shemu tiferet
Page 146. We remain standing for Baruch.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
Please be seated. With gratitude for refreshingly cool mornings and warm afternoons and long evenings, we thank God for the miracles of creation on the top of page 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravi. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Avad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kulmecha וקשרתם להות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
This week we begin reading the fourth book of the Torah, the book of Numbers. In Hebrew, it's known as Bamidbar, which has a very different meaning. Bamidbar means in the desert or in the wilderness. We've made it out of slavery. We've passed through the miracle of the sea. We've received law and instruction at Sinai, and now we travel a path uncertain and winding. But we know that we're headed in the Torah and in our own lives to a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. And we know that there is no way to get from where we are today to where we are going, except by joining hands and marching together. Today is Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. It marks the historic moment when Israeli paratroopers reclaimed the old city of Jerusalem and reunited the capital of the Jewish people. On this evening, we pray that God especially spreads a shelter of peace over all of Jerusalem, over all those who live there. Hashkivenu, page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu shomerenu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, oh Adonai, guard us We rise in body or in spirit for the blessings of the Amida, page 164. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi hagitei latecha. Adonai open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטעם, מחכה חיים בחסד, בחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללו חסדה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. I'll invite you to be seated again. We'll turn our thoughts now to those who are in need of healing. I think that Rabbi Friedman mentioned the fact that we're now in the wilderness. That's where our Torah reading cycle has brought us, to the Midbar, to the wilderness. And I think sometimes that's what illness can feel like when we're in need of healing, or our loved ones are in need of healing. It can feel like a wilderness. So we acknowledge that, and we bring to our minds and hearts the names of all those who are in need of healing. So if you have a name you'd like to share, we'll invite you to do so now. If you are joining us via the live stream, you can share your name by saying it aloud or typing it into the chat. If you have a name in mind that you didn't say out loud, we'll hold that name too. And we'll share these names from our community, those who are in need of healing. Gerald Backman, Gabby Buckman, Mary Wheeler Braun, John Burns, Alex Carr, Al Delardi, Freda Easton, Steve Elliott, Beth Field, Sue Flaum, Fred Friedman, Louise Friedman, Maurice Friedman, Jackie Fuchs, Roy Fuchs, Lanny Gans, Sandra Halperin, Jeff Helfand, Sheldon Manspizer, Harriet Koppelman-Mancheski, Robbie Rajano, Nancy Selikoff, Marcia Silber, Stan Stern, Jill Stewart, Nancy Vega, Moshe Yaakov Ben Yocheved. We turn to page 371.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor habracha Lavotenu. Bless not in need of healing with refuah shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We'll take the next few moments for our own personal reflection and prayer using the words of our books or the words of our hearts. This is an Israeli Bedouin folk melody that imagines an expansive desert scene with camels passing through, their bells ringing out. Lamidbar Sainu al demashot gemalim at savreihem yetzatzelu pamnim gedolim Sainu Sainu Lamidbar Sainu 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 Lamidbar Sainu
Last week, I had the privilege with some of you in this room of attending Jason Robert Brown's musical Parade. Almost 30 members of our Temple Israel community came together in New York City for dinner and a viewing of this spectacular musical. Parade tells the story of Leo and Lucille Frank, two American Jews living in Atlanta in the 1910s. Leo was the superintendent, the director of the factory of the National Pencil Company that made pencils in Atlanta. And in 1913, a young 13-year-old girl named Mary Fagan, who was one of the factory workers, was found dead in the building, a crime for which Leo was arrested and charged. Leo was convicted and sentenced to death, but shortly afterwards, many of the witnesses recanted their testimony, and the stories and evidence against him began to unravel. Almost 2 years later, in 1915, the governor of Georgia commuted the sentence from death to life in prison, pending further investigation and appeal. However, frustrated by this ruling and the governor's decision, a mob kidnapped Leo from prison, dragged him to a tree, and in August of 1915, Leo Frank was lynched. The play was beautiful and moving in many different ways, but to me, perhaps the most important takeaway was simply that it exists, that the story of this act of anti-Semitism, the murder of a Jewish man in the South of America over 100 years ago, is being told today on a Broadway stage. If we were to think about the biggest example of Jewish representation on Broadway, many of us might say Fiddler on the Roof. Sure. How many have seen Fiddler on the Roof in some capacity? The play, the movie, both, many times over again. In some ways, Fiddler is thought of as the quintessential Jewish musical, the Jewish story. But the story of the shtetl of Anatevka includes love and loss and assimilation and, yes, even a little anti-Semitism. But to me, it is the story of an entirely different kind of Jew. In the way that Fiddler is something that can be looked at in the past, Parade shows a modern secular Jew. For many people who don't have experience or relationships with Jews, it's easy to compare all of us to Tevye, picturing Jews as only wearing tzitzit and black hats and black coats. But Leo Frank's American Jew is one who lives in Atlanta, wears a well-cut suit, and works as the superintendent of a pencil factory. The representation of Leo Frank and his Judaism is much more similar to many of us in this room, and therefore expands the idea more broadly of what a Jew could look like. This is important. Tevye is a relic of our past, while Leo Frank is a representation of our present. While the cast of Parade includes members of multiple faith and racial identities, Leo and Lucille Frank are played by Ben Platt and Michaela Diamond, respectively, who are both Jewish. Ben and Michaela both give incredible performances and have been nominated for Best Actor and Actress at next month's Tony Awards, but they have both given specific interviews discussing their Judaism and how their Jewishness as proud, modern, liberal Jews is an integral aspect to how they see and understand each of these characters and how they shape their individual performances. And representation matters. Stories like this need to be told. A number of people remarked to me at intermission that they were shocked that they hadn't even heard this story of Leo Frank and his lynching either until the creation of this musical in 1998 or its revival this year, or even before we launched this event of going to see the musical as a community. But Parade has attracted the attention of more than just the Jewish community. On opening night in March, theatergoers found themselves hounded by neo-Nazi protesters, standing outside the theater, yelling and chanting that Leo Frank was in fact guilty and these theater goers were about to, quote, go worship a pedophile. In a brilliant, in my opinion, a brilliant decision by the creative team of the show, they decided to integrate one of the signs that the protesters were holding into the play itself, seamlessly linking the events of 1913 and 2023. And if I hadn't previously read about this change, this addition to the show, it would have been indistinguishable for me from any other part of the performance. So in doing so, they proved the importance of this show's existence. In fact, anti-Semitism in any place and any form is scary, but the overt anti-Semitism not just toward Orthodox Jews or those who can be easily identified as Jewish, but toward Leo Frank's type of Jew, which might be more similar to our type of Jew, should make us all more keenly aware of the dangers that anti-Semitism can present to each of us. And therein lies the importance of the elevation of these stories now more than ever before. We should continue to elevate Jewish stories that are so often pushed to the side. Not just stories of anti-Semitism, but also stories of Jewish pride and resilience. Parade, on its face, is a story of anti-Semitism and the lynching of an American Jew in the South, a lynching that ultimately led to the creation of the Anti-Defamation League. But there are moments in the show that I found highlight Jewish pride and resilience in a truly beautiful way. Toward the end of the show, Lucille visits Leo in jail to inform him that the governor has commuted his sentence from death to life in prison, and that there is a chance for appeal and a new trial. The subsequent duet that they sing together is, to me, by far the musical highlight of the show. A soaring melody of Leo and Lucille singing together about the future, a song called "This Is Not Over Yet." The Franks sing out the hope that is so inextricably linked to the Jewish experience. And even while Leo's story does end sadly, there was something that left me hopeful with these words ringing in my ears. As Leo is marched to his death and the noose is fitted around his neck, we hear him sing quietly his final words, those of the Shema. While I could feel myself begin to tear up thinking about Leo and his story, I was simultaneously so moved by the power of hearing those words in a Broadway theater, normalizing and recognizing American Jews doing Jewish things. If you are able, I strongly encourage you to take a trip down to the city to see this show if you haven't already, because this show and this story matter. It matters that there are stories of Jews being presented in all different mediums and to all different types of people. Parade succeeds for me on a number of levels, but perhaps most importantly, because it exists. Because it shows us all how to lift up and honor our Jewish identity, and hopefully it paves the way for an American Jewish future and an American Jewish community filled with pride, resilience, and joy. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi.
V'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Each gathering is complete only when we remember those who we have loved and lost at this season and in recent days, as well as the martyrs of our people and all those whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. And so on this Shabbat, if you're observing Shiva or Shloshim, the first 7 or 30 days following the loss of a loved one, we invite you to rise and share their name aloud at this time. On this, remain standing. On this Shabbat, we're observing the Shiva and Shloshim of Leo Gold, husband of the late Sandy, father of David and Elizabeth, Susan, John and Lisa, and grandfather of Daniel, Michael, Sam, and Alex. Audrey Megiddo, wife of the late Nat, mother of Dan and Nancy, Meg, Matthew and Patricia, and grandmother of 5 and great-grandmother of 2. And Simone Goldfarb, mother of Adam and Melissa, grandmother of Sabrina and Zach. And now, if you're observing a yahrzeit, the anniversary of a loss, and you'd like to share a name aloud, we invite you to stand and do that at this time. We're also observing the anniversary of the following members of the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of the following members of our TI family: Marvin Asnis, Fanny Bersofsky, Joan Berman, Eileen Davidoff, David Edelman, Murray Felton, Nathaniel Fensterstock, John Paul Joseph, Annette Kamisher, Irene Katz, Ethel Lerner, Max Levitt, Henrietta Megiddo, Stanley Monshine, Seymour Ostreicher, Joel Pollack, Simon Pozell, Melody Reed, Harry Richmond, Carol Rosenberg, Richard Rosenthal, Scott Rutsky, Helen Schumann, Larry Shea, Ina Ruth Silverman, Jerry Silverstein, Ruth Stein, Paul Sugarman, Ida Sugarman, Zena Sugarman-Thrope, and Howard Walker. Now, if you're joining us via the live stream and wish to share a name aloud or in the chat, we invite you to do so. And we invite all those who are here to rise in body or otherwise elevate your soul as we say Zichronam Livracha. May the memory of all those we remember always be a blessing. And we turn to page 598 for these words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, V'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'miran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, v'ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. May the Holy One of Blessing, who creates harmony in the heavens above, bring peace and comfort to all who mourn and to all of us. And we say together, Amen.
Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We're so glad you all were with us this evening to celebrate Shabbat. A couple of announcements before Stella helps us finish our service. We have on Monday evening programming here at TCS. At TCS, we'll be in conversation with the Israeli Consul General of Boston. Should be a very interesting conversation. On Thursday, Tikkun Leil Shavuot, also at TCS. Rabbi Friedman and Rabbi Namatov Bressler will be teaching. Friday morning, our Shavuot Yizkor service at 10:30, right here. And then next Friday night, Shabbat service with and celebrating our confirmation class, our 10th graders who have been studying with the clergy all year, and we'll honor them at Shabbat on Friday. So with that, Stella, are you ready? All right, page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri
hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon, yimchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit, ki hu yom techila, lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki banu bacharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat L'chaim.
That was great. You may take a sip.
Come on over here.
Here. We'll cut some challah. Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Yair